Hello and welcome back. So, I think it's obvious what we're going to be doing today. Native PHP. We are going to be playing with Native PHP because it's V1's just come out, right? It sounds cool. Should we be using PHP for native? Let's find out, basically. I dabbled with it when it first came out and it was fun, but I wasn't sure if it was something that I would use. I couldn't find a use case for it, but I have. I found a use case for it. So we're going to play around with that today and we're going to see what we can do. So what are we going to build? That is the question. So I have got a Electron app up and running. It is here. The name might be obvious. The logo might be obvious. I'm going to look at managing my homebrew packages with an app. Give Homebrew a GUI, basically. That's what we're going to look at. So I've got my Laravel application here, and I am going to go down to this little corner. And there we go. That might be a little bit easier. So I'm going to organize my windows. So here's my code. Here's my app. Little Homebrew over here. And then here is all of the docs. So I'm going to be focusing on desktop because that's where Homebrew lives for me. I do have a license that Simon happily provided for me for mobile, but I'm probably going to use that in my talk I am giving in July. So let's have a look. Where do we start? So application lifecycle, we can add a database. That's no big issues. There's not going to be any sort of like concept of a user. That is the main thing. So because it's installed, it's going to have a database. It's going to be very constrained to that person who's installed it. So the login register I'm going to remove. So let's have a look at databases. I'm going to want a database, I think. SQLite, obviously. All good, all good. Native migrate. Seeding. When to not use a database. Oh, that's a good point. I could use a file. That might be useful. Let's focus on files, application storage path. So this will be within there. That's all good. So yeah, it looks like files is going to be the main focus here. So you can use like storage disk, user home. That might be helpful. Okay, let's get started. I think I know where I am. So first things first, I have created a little command which is going to dump my Homebrew file for me. And the idea is that you want to get Homebrew to dump your brew file. So now if I cat brew file, I've got all of the things that are installed, like so. All sounding good. Fantastic. So next up, we want to be processing that. So we want the main view to come in to kind of detect whether or not the user has got a brew file, basically. So this part here, let's first off just fix all of that up. So good, so good. Declare that as static. So the welcome component, we're going to create we'll stick with the welcome. It's all good. So the component is that, and the props are going to be within here. Has brew file. File exists. And we are going to go for How should we do this? Hey, Benjamin, how are you doing? Storage. Disk. Can I do a user home? Path. Blue file. That's kind of what I need there, right? So let's just simplify that one. Let's come back. What I'm going to do is, I think I can show the toggle developer tools. Developer tools are on. Fantastic. It hasn't got view in it though. I wonder if I went to brew.test, it should look the same, right? User home does not have a configure driver. Okie dokie. So instead of that, I am going to say get env home brew file. There we go. Do we have a brew file? Tell you what, I'm going to stop running this just while I get this all set up. I'm going to use the view dev tools because I'm going to want it. So I'm just going to run composer dev quickly. Awesome. So that is all in. My view dev tools. Welcome. Okay, so I'm going to pass through has brew file. And this needs to come down to resources, pages, welcome. So what I need on this is not for it to be so slow. So we're going to create an interface for the props. Has brew file is a Boolean. Define props like so. I don't know. Oh, it's still indexing. That's why it's being slow. Wait for that to load. Has brew file true. Fantastic. Okay. So we've loaded and we've got a brew file. We are so far so good. All of that is all. I'm going to remove all of this in a little bit. Okay. What next? What next? We want to kind of fetch the contents of the brew file, right? So in reality, what we're going to have is a command that's going to run every so often and also be able to be triggered to, we're going to make a command, fetch brew file. So if we open up fetch brew file here, as command, name is brew fetch, description can be fetch brew file from local file system. Remove all of that boilerplate that we no longer need. Go in there. And we're going to return self success. There we go. Okay, so first thing we want to fetch the brew file from the local file system. We want to pass the contents of the brew file and build up the array. So our path is going to be that. We've done that before, right? We are building a GUI, native GUI desktop app for Homebrew, basically. So if the file doesn't exist, path, we want to error using Laravel prompts and say, no, root file found that path. Please run PHP artisan brew dump to create a brew file. Turn failure. Like that. So a little bit of helpful instructions if you're going to do it manually, right? Okay. Don't need squiggles around that, but I'll leave it. Okay, so I did quickly create a quick little thingamajiggy. And what I can do is I'm just going to grab that and do this. So brew file equals files get contents path. And now we're going to say a brew fetch. Okay, let's test this. A brew fetch. Excellent. We've got stuff. There's my casks, my brews, there's my tap. Fantastic. As you can see, there's lots of stuff in there. Lots of stuff, lots of stuff. Okay, so the way that we want to store this is in the app storage, but how do we want that to be done? It's probably not going to make sense until it all comes together, is it? If I'm honest. Okay, so there's past data here. I've got my taps, my brews, and my casks. And then what I want to do is store that in storage somewhere. So store the past brew file in the JSON file in app storage. So our new JSON path is going to be storage path app brewfile.json. There we go. Handy little bit of AI coming from JetBrains. Thank you very much. Okay, so now what I want to do is, okay, if it doesn't exist, apparently you can touch it. That makes sense. File put contents. Awesome. And then we want to say info. Let's see if AI gets it right. Brew file stored at JSON path. Then remove that. And let's just test it again. Fetch. Hey, so we have got our brew file. Fantastic. We have got it. We've got it. Okay, so now that that's stored, I don't need this command right now, but we are going to come back and possibly refactor that one. Over here, what we're going to want to do is has brew file. We're going to have brew there, and we're going to get the contents of that file. So what we need to do is this is all very kind of manual at the moment, isn't it? File, get contents, storage path, app, brewfile.json. But we want to get the contents, and we want to JSON decode it, where the JSON is that. And we want it as an array. We'll stick the depth in there, and we'll do the flags as JSON throw on error. Okay, so refresh. What's happening? Ooh. It's gone a little bit mental. That's what's going on. Here we go. Welcome. And then this is going to be brew. So we can have brew in there. And that is going to be basically any to start with. Here we go. Brew, brew. We got a tap, we got brew, and we got cask. So they're now all coming through. So we just want to look at displaying them. And this is currently in my browser because I need it in my browser to get the View DevTools. It would be really cool if I could get the DevTools in the native build, but it's basically just a headless Chrome thing, so hasn't got any extensions or user profiles. So what I'm going to do is let's use shadcdn and let's go and say, okay, what components are there? We need some sort of card, maybe. Not sure. Okay. I'm overthinking this. Let's just go down and grab all of this. And what we want to do is just remove as much as we can. Just get rid of all of this. I'll tell you what, be quicker for me just to. Why is my computer being so slow? That's a header. There's that. Let's just remove all of that. Let's come back and have a look. There we go. Nice and empty. Okay, so main class, I don't know, min h full width screen. And what we'll do is within here, we want to break this up. So we're going to have search at the top, list at the bottom. So split that into what? Flex, col, maybe? I don't know. I'm really bad at CSS. So search input, list stuff. This is usually how I get started. There we go. Search input and list stuff. Okay, so flex col, items, center, justify center. What happens? Hey, in the middle. Fantastic. Okay, so this one, we're going to want to say, let's add some padding around it of like, I don't know, 24. And we'll probably do the same. But if we're going to do the same, we may as well do space wide to 4 up here. Like that. And then py 24 like that. There we go. We're getting somewhere. Okay, so we've got a nice search input and we're going to have stuff in the middle. So this is going to be a form. You can use input, type text, const form equals use form. And this is going to be I don't know, query. That the model form dot query placeholder is going to be search for a package. Okay, we'll do that. I am building a really, really bad UI right now. Is this going to load, or is this going to say, no, Steve, you don't know JavaScript? Expect an array, got an object. Okay, so object. So what we could probably do is say something like it's got like tap, which is going to be a strings, cask, brew, tap, brew, and cask. Tap, brew, and cask. And this needs to have use form, search for package, list stuff. Cool. We are getting somewhere. We are getting somewhere. So what I want is this needs to be pretty reactive, right? Yeah, this is PHP, and this is obviously Vue.js. So once submit is async. We want to basically send this over to, I don't know, something like root get search name is search. There, I'm going to create a controller for this one. I think PHP controllers don't need any of those right now, so we're just going to do a search controller. Public invoke like so. We're going to chuck that request in there. This is going to return some form of response, most likely JSON. So our query is going to be request string query to string. And if we just quickly dump on that query. Down here, we need to link through to that search controller. And we're going to simplify that. Then we're going to learn Laravel pipe. There we go. So if we open up a new one and go to HTTP brew.test search query equals, I don't know, Laravel, for example. We've got Laravel at this point. So we know we can hit that. So now we need to look at actually querying things. And Homebrew's actually got a relatively good API. You can go formula brew.sh, get the JSON for those things, and there's other parts that you can actually get. So what I'm going to do is create a integration over here. So integrations, Homebrew, and within here, we're going to stick a client. This client in the constructor is going to get a pending request, I believe. Yes. So private read-only pending request. For desktop, it is free, yes. For mobile, you do need a license to help support the project, basically. So here's my app service provider. So I want to say this app singleton We're going to do an abstract for the client. The concrete is going to be a new client where the request is HTTP SARD. The base URL is going to be up to API there. And then the timeout, we're going to do seconds of 30 or 40. You don't need anything else really at this point, so we're going to keep it like that. Let's just fix that up. So in our search controller, what we can actually do private read-only client homebrew. So we've now got homebrew. And what this client needs to do is list all metadata for all homebrew core formula or homebrew casks. That's all good. I can do that. Get cask metadata for something in specific. List one category of analytics events. Not quite what I'm after. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go formula. Let's get some formula. So public function formula. And this is going to return this request get where the URL is formula.json. And we are going to return the JSON. So this should in fact return an array if we are lucky. So way to test this. Okay, so we're going to make a command. I usually create a test command. I'm going to open up this command. Let's keep it as that. Move that and that. And we're going to do this. This should return an integer. Return self success. And then in here, we're going to inject the client as homebrew. And let's just dive dump on homebrew formula. So down here, we can run a app test. Make sure it's hitting the API. And it is. We are getting all of the magic in homebrew there. So what we want to do is kind of, because it's a desktop app, we don't want to just constantly hit the API every time it loads, because that's just going to get messy. So what we want to do is get all of this data and store it again. So formulas, homebrew formula. And then what we want to do is let's, we just did something similar here. We want to basically just do this in effect. So let's make that new command of make command. We've got dump brew, fetch brew. We're going to have fetch formulas, which is going to do something very similar to this. Brew formulas, we'll call it. as command. Name is clue formulas. Description is fetch formulas from Homebrew, API, and cache locally. That'll be a lot easier. Right, so now we can just fix up that, get rid of all of that, and drop that in this place. So let's go and basically copy this code that I did here. So we're going to call this formulas and we're going to store that in there. Formulas stored at that. So if I run a brew formulas, is that going to actually do it? Hey. So now if I just open, okay. Let's come down and look at our storage app formulas. So there we go. We've got everything that we wanted. Fantastic. We can do the same for casks. So fetch casks. And basically all we're doing here is we're going to use the local file system and the scheduler to build up a file-based cache, in effect. Casks array, return this request, get JSON, and then the URL is going to be cask.json. And for some reason, it auto-completed everything for me. So there we go. So what we're going to want is fetch casks, which is going to be very similar to this. Put that in there. Through casks, fetch casks. Drop that. Do this. Into formulas. And we are going to do the same thing. Casks, casks, casks. There we go. So now if we brew casks, we now have our casks locally as well. And there we go. We have got stuff. So what I think we could do here is how can we do this? How can we do this? Research wants to basically search between those two files. So the problem is they are two very different formats. Can we put them next to each other? Yes. So there's formulas. There's that. Artifacts, no biggie there. Okay, so we've got a tap and we've got a name. Tap and a name. Description. So we've got some similar things that we can use here. So when we're searching, what we want to do is we've got the query. So let's say that's Laravel right now. Laravel not found in there. Laravel Forge server menu bar. Cool. So we can actually search within there. I'm pretty sure Laravel Scout has something that I could use. Scout. What drivers can you use? You can use like the database driver. Scout includes a collection driver that is local development use and does not require an external. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so let's use a collection driver. Let's see what happens with a collection driver. Collections, or can I use database? Let's use hard to decide. Okay, so let's go and maybe instead of using files, use a database, and we'll just sync everything to a database. App data directory, and we use a system, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so a make model, and we're going to make a model called cask, and we're going to have a migration. And then we're going to have a formula and a migration. Okay, so let's go in and get that started. All right, database, migrations. Let's start with formula because it's there. And let's declare that static and fix that up. Right, we'll stick with standard IDs. So formula, what do we want? We want to extract the table. We want the name. Table, string, full name, table, string, app. And we're going to want the table, string, description. That's definitely stuff that we want. We'll store the license. Any license key allowed to publish the app without license key allows it. You know, I don't know. It's a private package. I believe you need the license key to download the package. And okay, so table, JSON, or okay, so I can't think of anything else I might need right now. It's all of those install stuff, dependencies. Got like disabled and stuff, but I don't know if I'm going to need any of that right now. Deprecated. I mean, I suppose we could have some Boolean flags, so like table Boolean for outdated, table Boolean for deprecated, table Boolean for disabled. I think that's all of the ones that I'm going to want to use in there. We're going to default all of these to false. Default false and default false. There we go. So basically we're going to stick the whole thing within this for column, and then we're going to pull out a few key parts there. So now if we look at casks, we have a name, which is currently in an array. Full name, I don't think we have. We don't have a tap, but we do have the description, and we have a home page. Okay, so let's come down to casks over here, and let's focus on this one. So, not that. Get rid of that. Do this. Do that. Okay, so table string. We are going to have the name. Oh, there's a tap. Table string tap. Table string description. Table string homepage. Is there a license? Depends on caveats, deprecations, languages, variations. No, there's no license on this part. So we do have a version. Table string version. There we go. I'm going to stick to that, add the JSON raw, and we'll move on. Okay, so next up, we want our models. So model formula and model cask. Cask and formula. So formula, let's start with the fillable fields. Our formula, so we've got name, full name, tap, description, license, outdated, deprecated, all of those. And then casks in here. We want to do outdated as a Boolean, deprecated as a Boolean, disabled as a Boolean, raw as an array. This is going to return an array of string. And then this is going to be a list of strings, like so. Awesome. Now for the casks. Let's get our fillable. List of strings. We are going to have a name, a tap, a description, a homepage, and a version. And raw. Can't forget raw. The only thing we really need to cast in this one is a raw to be an array. Return an array of string, like so. And fix that one up. This one's fixed up. That's all good. What we would do is a migrate. I think we also need to a native migrate as well. There we go. So we've got our two models available to start passing these files. So what is going to be the best way to do so? When we're fetching formulas, we could store it locally, but we've now got a database and we're going to have a database scout driver to search against. So instead of that, we're going to get the formula and then we're going to go over for each formulas as formula. We basically want to formula query update or create. So the attributes and the values. So formulas JSON, let's go over here. So the unique things here is going to be the name. Formula name. yeah, name and full name, probably the two main things that are going to be unique here. So then we're going to have that apparently. So description is that. There's our license, outdated. Let's go have a look. How it's called. Yep, outdated, deprecated, and disabled. Awesome. Then raw is just the entire formula. Awesome. So I can go ahead and remove that. And if we rerun that, A brew formulas. A brew formulas. I could provide a level of output, I guess. Info, processing, formula name, something like that. Here we go. Let's have a look. Get stuff from the API. Processing stuff. Awesome, awesome, awesome. That is now all going to be in the database, which is awesome. Formula.license. Okay, so license is potentially nullable. So what we're going to do, instead of changing our database, we're going to say not specified, like that. There we go. We're going to do stuff again. It's all looking good so far. Right, while that's doing that, we can start looking at that fetch formula, fetch casks as well. So let's open up fetch casks. So these are casks. And then what we want to do is something very similar to this. But over here, we're going to open up that and drop that in. We're going to say cask query, import the cask, casks as cask name, first reference, cask. We'll just remove the ones that we don't need. Okay, so we're going to have cask, which has got a name, a tap, a description, a name, that, name, tap, description, homepage version raw. So homepage version and raw. This is going to be version and page, description, name, and then just get rid of all of this stuff at the bottom. Okay, so that can do that. Processing cask. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So we're getting somewhere. That's working its way through. So at the same time, I'm going to run something else. God, my laptop's getting slow today. A brew casks. Ooh, okay. There we go. We should now start seeing stuff, hopefully. There we go. We're starting to see stuff. That's still going. That's failing because description. No description. Unknown. Unspecified. Let's go again. Okay, so that's still going. That's now going. All of that is working. Build directory, blah, 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 migrations. Introduction, app data. Okay, refreshing your database. Okay, DB seed, when to not use it. Okay. No biggie. Is there like a scheduler? Child processors. Okay, so I can just run these natively. So within my console, I can just run some commands, which is awesome. So artisan command through formula. Can I just pass the class name? Fetch tasks class every hour, every odd hour. Here we go. Something like that. We don't have to hit it every minute, right? And then we're going to say fetch formulas every let's do 6 hours, twice a day. Should be good. Should be fine for now. Anyway, we're going to declare some script types because I'm Steve. I think that needs to be. I haven't scheduled anything in such a long time. Laravel.com docs, and then we're going to schedule task scheduling. Okay, schedule call. Schedule command fetch tasks every 6 hours. There we go. That's what I wanted it to be, not artisan. Okay, so we're going to then do the same thing for the fetch formulas. Like that. So that should all be good now. That's can be scheduled. That's going to start building it up in the background and keep it in sync so that this has fetchable. And then so does this. Use searchable like that. So there's that bit. Fetch casks, cask formula, refile stuff. Going to come back to search controller and stuff in a mo. That is still going. This is now done. So what we want to do is configure Laravel Scout to use the database, basically. So we need to do the Scout stuff. It's not currently in there, so I'll stick it right at the bottom. Scout driver is database. Database and collection engine. So that once it's configure your searchable data. So to searchable array. So my formula needs to have a to searchable array on it. So to searchable array return something. Okay, so we're going to have an ID, this ID, name, this name, full name, this name. Actually, yeah, we'll stick to just that for now. And what I'm going to do is on my task, going to do something very similar. I'm just going to have ID and name, because it will do like a like query, I believe. So that is all searchable stuff. Hey, Mark, how are you doing? I am awesome. Doing really good. Really, really, really good. Okay, so what I've got so far is my homebrew stuff. This is going to search against this search controller. So what I want to do, I don't actually need that. What I want to do is do a search concurrently. So I'm going to need that apparently. So let's have a look. I don't know if that's going to work within what I want, but we'll see. Deferring current tasks, running concurrent tasks. Okay, so I want to go and basically do this. Import that. We are going to return the formula query. No, not query. It's a static, isn't it? Search query get. And then also we are going to go task search query get like that. And we're going to get them back in order of formulas and tasks. And then we're going to return a new JSON response. Data is formulas and tasks like that. Yeah, that should be fine, I think. I've not really thought this through. This is just kind of like spur of the moment, so we'll see. Okay, so now if we go over back to that welcome, we're going to have a at submit top prevent. I'll submit. So when we submit, what we want to do is formulas tasks equals await. Have I got Axios installed? search question mark query is form query. Haven't got it yet. Okay, so npm install Axios. Awesome. I've got Axios. And then what we're going to do is const formulas is ref. That's currently null. Tasks is a ref that is null. Then what we want to do is formulas dot value is formulas. Tasks is that. Import Axios, that should be fine. I'm not bothered about that right now. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Try it and see. So, Laravel, we got the query. We've got all of the stuff back. Over here, we've got all of this. We've got stuff. So down in our list stuff, what we're going to do is we are going to say class, we're going to say no grid polls, let's say 8, and we're going to do a gap of 6. Div class poll span for formulas. Why can I never spell that? Div class col span for tasks, like so. Awesome. ul li, and in here v for formula in formulas. The key is going to be the formula.id, formula.name. And I want the same thing for the casks. Task. Give it space. Give it space. Okay. Currently empty. Let's make sure that we're not dying. Okay. So Laravel. Ooh. Cannot set properties at an undefined setting value. At submit. Tasks. Okay, so let's just get data here. And let's just also log that data. We are getting there. Steve writing JavaScript. What has the world come to? Okay, so formulas 0, tasks 2. Awesome. So we can set formulas.value to be data.formulas and casks values data.casks. Amazing. Amazing. So Laravel kit and Laravel hood. Perfect. So If B if there is cask dot length, no casks found, and then what we can do is the same thing for formulas. No formulas found. Moment of truth. Can't have a length on null. Steve writing JavaScript. Okay, so let's look at Stripe. Stripe Mock, Stripe CLI, and this. Okay, so we are now searching, and it's all good. Next up, what we want to do is come over here and say, okay, let's stop running it in there. And let's do composer native dev. Was it dev native? I can't remember which way around it is. I think it's native dev. Moment of truth. Moment of truth. And we have liftoff on a different screen. Okay, so let me bring this over. Come on, you can do it. If I search for Laravel, no! Laravel. It's not doing it. Let's focus on XHR quickly. Query. That bit worked. Console. Nothing is appearing. Perhaps I need to run the scheduler? I don't know. What's in native? DBC, DB migrate, DB publish, reset, serve. Okay, so what I'm going to do is come down to database, and that's that one. We're going to rename this to local. We're going to rename this, right, wrong way around. We're going to rename this one to database and rename this one to NativePHP. NativePHP. There we go. Is that going to hit it? There we go. We just swapped the database around. Okay, so type, we can swap that to search. Which means we can do that. We're going to say width full. No. We will say 96. There we go. So we've got search for a package, no formulas and no casks. Okay, so now what we want to do, don't need that open. Let's go for Stripe. We got options now. So now we can go over to here and use a card. And we should already have card available, but we'll make sure we have got a card available. while that does its magic, I'm going to come over to here and we are going to say card. Yes, we do. Excellent. So then we've got the card header, card title, which is going to be the formula.name. Formula, so we've got name, tap, description, and license. So what I'll do is formula name, card description, like so, card content, yeah, card content, pvhtml is going to be the formula.description. So card footer, we're just going to stick a random button in there now. Like so. And then we're just going to grab that and replace it like so. For now, I will stick with that and see what's going on. So Stripe. There we go. Stripe mock, Stripe CLI, and then on the other side, we can pretty much do the same thing. We're going to say this is the cask. So casks, cask, 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 cask. But a cask does not have all of the same things. So it's got description, okay, it does have all of the same things. Awesome. Okay, so what I also want to do is auto focus this. So when it loads, you know you need to search. There we go. We have a heading, title, formulas. All it's got really is title and description. Description. Okay. Available formulas. And then down here, we are going to have tasks. Tasks. So, formulas and casks. We are going to search for, let's just search Nuxt. Laravel. We've got formulas and we've got casks. Awesome. Stripe. Mix. Excellent. We've got stuff working. We're going to clear that and search nothing. Awesome. So that part is all working. And what we want to do next is we kind of want to know if it's installed, right? So at this point, we have got brew, tap, cask, all the different things that are important, I guess. So what we need is how can we do this? how could we do this? I'm going to just set width full on that. A second. Like that. Let's just tidy this up because this is going to bother me. Going to grab that. I'm going to say div class mx auto max width of 7xl. Like that for now. There we go. We got something. What can we do? What can we do? Okay, so what we could do to start with is say that that is medium screens, and then we can have grid goals for, oops, there. So when you shrink the screen, it does shrink nicely. Okay, MD that, and otherwise it's widthful. Is it working? Here we go. There we go. It is working. Fantastic. Hey, Patricio, it's going good. What I kind of need to do is clear up some of these type issues as well, right? So types, we're going to have, let's do export interface task and export interface formula. So we've got an ID of string. Let's put this over here. See what yeah, NativePHP is awesome. So let's make a resource. And we're going to create a cask resource. Oh, cask resource and a formula resource, like so. So cask resource over here. This is typically what I do when I'm building inertia. I don't know why I skipped it. Like that. And then we will just tidy that up. Allowing us to have this. So ID, this resource ID. The name is this resource name. We've got the tap, this resource tap. Description. This resource description. Homepage. This resource homepage and version. This resource version. So our cask has an ID, a name, tap, description, homepage, and a version. There's a formula. And now let's open the formula resource. So the formula resource, grab that. Like so. No, not like that. ID is this resource ID. Name is this resource name. Full name is this resource full name. Tap this resource tap description license outdated deprecated and disabled. So back over to here. Formula has a little bit more. So we've got an ID of string, name of string, full name of string, tap string, description string, license, outdated is a Boolean, deprecated is Boolean, and disabled Boolean. Like so. Over here, what we want to do is we are going to have formulas and casks. Like that. So I need to pull those in. So import type from types. That. And that means that down here, I've now got better auto-complete. Haha! The beauty of TypeScript. So all of that is working. Cask. Doesn't have a license, it's got a version. So Stripe. Version latest. Okay, so that's all of that stuff done. We can close out that. What we want to do is when we click that, we want to say install, and we want to start to do a check. So here we've got these. Let's give me a list of names. How could I do this? How could I do this? Like that. No, nope, nope. Brew straight away. Brew. Const props is that. So we can say props.brew.cask.includes and when function installed formula name string Boolean, like so. What we could do is template here, if installed cask, and we can have cask.name. We can, if it is installed, we can just do like a already installed template else install. Like that, and then what we'll do is we will replicate that here for the formula, installed formula.name. Right. Now let's test it again. So, right. Install. What I'm going to do is open up Warp, and we're going to check this next to it. So Stripe CLI, I do actually have. So that isn't matching. Let's also console log the name that we're being passed. So view, where's toggle dev tools? There we go. Console, clear that. Stripe mock and Stripe CLI. It's not matching because of that part, because of the tap. Okay. Okie dokie. Let's try code. Lots of stuff to check. Okay. Let's try Telegram. There we go. Telegram downloader, Telegram desktop. Okay, so the name isn't actually going to match. This. So cask Telegram. I'll come back over to this a second. So I've got my dev tools, Telegram. Got nothing. Brew, cask. So that's Telegram there. That's how it's stored. So if I come back over to my sites, Brew, open this up in the database a second. Why can I not do this? Okay. Let's go tinker quickly. App models, cask. First. It's empty, isn't it? Okay. Way to get around that is going to be database SQLite. Let's just delete. Okay, we'll just manually do it. rm-rf database.sqlite. Then we're going to copy database native PHP SQLite to be database database.sqlite. And then we're going to tinker again. Okay. App models task out. Damn it. Migrate. Okay, so rm minus rf database SQLite. And we're going to migrate. Yes. A through cast. Run that in the background. So when it's coming back from the API, I need to look in name or full name, right? Let's have a look at this. This might take a second. Really print it. Telegram. Let's look at the formula instead. Maybe it's in there. Well, I don't get why that's not working right now. Because I know I've got it installed. Here we go. That's all of the stuff. Okay, that's not going to work. What can we do? What can we do? Got to be a nicer way to do this, right? Got to be. Got to be. What can we do? What can we do? Sure. Wild search with an A. Okay. So I'm not really sure what to do with that right now. There might be a nicer way to do the searching. But I'm not 100% sure. Burn cask. That's working fine. Maybe a little bit slow, but I can't think of a way to speed it up right this second. I suppose you could cache things, but I'll look at that another time. I think this is more of a dabble of how you can build something fun. Okay, so what I'd probably do next is native PHP, right? So the next thing you'd want to do is say, okay, so come over here. We're going to make a job, and this is going to be called run homebrew install, like that. Run homebrew install. And what this will do is this will take a public read-only string as the name or as the command for now. Get rid of that. And then we're going to say that the result is going to be process run this command if the result failed, then we are going to throw a new runtime exception with the message output. Something really simple. So what we want to do next here is, this is like, don't ever do this. Ever do this. Ever. What you really want here is a protected function of, acceptable commands, and do a if actually like this. Don't even need to do that. If it's not an acceptable command, then we're going to say so new runtime exception where the message is command not acceptable. Return call it acceptable command. There we go. Return in array where we have the needle being this command, the haystack, and strict or true, and we could have like a I don't know, stuff like this. We're going to install casks and that. So command public read only string and name. Command and name. Let's just, there you go. If it's not one of the acceptable commands, then what we want to do is just bail out. Otherwise, yep, you can run a install, update, upgrade, cleanup, doctor, blah, blah, blah. like that. So that's how that works. And what we probably want to do at that point is have a controller over here. So there's a search root. We're going to go get, and we're going to have an install. I mean, I don't know if this is the correct way to do it, if I'm honest. I'm just kind of making it up off the top of my head. So don't take me too seriously. So install controller, and this is me not even thinking. So we're going to get our request as a request, and we're going to get a response back like that. So type is going to be request string type to string. Package is going to be request string package to string, and then we want to build command. So command, here we go. Install blah blah. Then we want to run homebrew install dispatch new run homebrew install command and package return response no content basically at this point. So there we go. That's a really, really simple way to do that part. Then on the website, what we could do is have a const install equals async type is a string, package is a string, not going to return anything, but it is going to actually return a promise, but not do anything with it. So return await Axios dot get install type is type and packages package. Something super silly and simple. Yeah, so that's probably it for that. So then the button for install can be at click is install formula and formula name, and then we can have casking cask name down here, cask and cask name like so. Ooh, unexpected package, darn it. We're going to call this name, and we're going to call that name. Doesn't like that. Apparently that is deprecated. Is that what it wants? Yeah, cool. I TypeScript. So we can say something like Ghosty, install. That should send the request off, and I'll probably get an error saying that Ghosty is already installed, for example. But that's native PHP. I've been going for an hour and 46 minutes. I'm going to call it there and maybe go do some actual work. Who knows? But as you can see, it's not that much different than building for the web. It's a desktop app. I can, you can build some handy utilities. If you're going to build a CLI tool, maybe you're going to want to build a desktop tool to go along with it. Who knows? But thank you for tuning in. That was quite a lot of fun, actually. Next is going to be, where am I? Here I am. Next, we'll do maybe return back to some geeky Laravel stuff. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. But if you enjoyed it, let me know. Give a like, give a comment, subscribe, all of those kind of YouTube-y buttons that pop up on the bottom. Thank you for tuning in. Stay awesome, stay safe, and I will catch you next time. Take care. Goodbye.